she goes on to ruin another civilization with her genetic experimentation. What was it like getting to wrap that arc? First of all, you had someone new to play with, Corin Nemec, and play
Yes.
with him she did.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So he was really really fun. That whole like final scene that Peter started shooting through my leg like from The Graduate.
Yes, exactly right.
So fun. So of course, like I co-wrote the story, and I had pitched the idea of the DNA machine, and then it
That was
became
yours.
yes. Yeah, so that was integrated into the larger story, and then James Titchener wrote the screenplay, and of course Brad always contributed. And so, did I want to die in the episode where I also had a writing credit? Not necessarily, but on the other hand, when you're gold, who's to say that you don't have a clone or you got something going on that you're going to come back in some way? So I was definitely not feeling like my death had to be eternal, forever and ever, amen. But I did like coming back and bringing all of that work, that devious, evil, meddling work, and bring it home to the SG1 team, because then it's like the best possible end of an arc for any villain. Like if you think of a movie, it's always going to be mano a mano at the end, and the bad guy has to face off with, So now there I am, actually facing off with Amanda's Carter and Corin's character and RDA, and so that you almost have to have that. So that was very satisfying. I loved doing that bit with Amanda. That was so cool.
Yeah.
She's incredible. I mean, what can you say? And that whole thing with Corin, like the fact that Peter, he's just such a clever director, and he's so efficient. So he was doing most of that scene just with our faces kind of right here. And of course, as an actor, I wanted to be looking right in Corin's eyes and doing all this kind of stuff. But then when you watch it's got a really interesting quality, and it is creepier in a way, just to be kind of hovering and being right against his cheek, and that little chalice that I was drinking from, and
Yes. I think that was sold at an auction.
it was
Yeah.
so my very first convention in Blackpool, England, and Corin was there, and he and I did the bidding for that, did the auction for that, and it raised like 800 euros or
Something ridiculous, right?
crazy amount for charity, right? So that was so great. Yeah.
One of the things that has always been a cornerstone of Stargate is that actions have consequences. And that when you agree to get something from someone that you that is a foe, and in this particular situation, the agreement is releasing that foe back into the cosmos. SG1 is responsible for what happened to those people in your last show, Metamorphosis. That's some pretty heavy subject matter, and they don't get away with it. That race lets them know, you are responsible for this.
Yeah. And actually, that's a very good point, because I think it's Wodan who does the final like
Yeah.
killing of me, and yeah, right.
Jeez.
And he knows that, so it's like, why is he going to serve you and keep her alive for your purposes when she's done all this devastation? And Dion Johnstone, who plays that, is such an important actor, and he also was in that episode of Ties That Bind that I
Oh,
spoke.
really?
He was one of the series leads, where he played a police officer. Just so fabulous to work with him again. And Alex Sahara, who played the psychic character, who was able to tell Wodan, she did this and blah, 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 and it's true. Those guys, like the fact that they were able to work with those prosthetics and still manage to communicate as performers, I mean, that's a special level of skill.
That's one of the things I wanted to get to was the prosthetics in that episode. I mean, we've seen a lot of alien creatures and other forms of life, but I mean, people that they make themselves out to be in this particular episode, there are people who have lived like that, and those are the bodies that they've had. And so, what was it like staring into a lot of those prosthetics through the screen? They just look so real. I mean, you could that's just magic. That's movie magic.
Absolutely. Like it's horrifying, it's horrifying. And the fact that those characters had this sweet, terrible belief that they were getting treatments to help them, and really they're just continually being experimented on. And I look at them and I'm like, come on, Nirrti, do a little better than this. I mean, they had incredible skills, telekinesis and psychic abilities and so on.
But at what cost?
At what cost? Exactly. And actually, that's a very big question, isn't it? I mean, in science in general, there's always that weighing of the good with the bad, and how can you justify that kind of thing? Yeah.
Our history includes, times where we have experimented and tried to perfect our own species, and it's just horrifying. But to do it to a race that didn't ask for it, I mean, is even on an order beyond that. They had no choice. They were subjects.
Yep. They were subjects. They were victims. They were prisoners. They had no options whatsoever. And they were almost like also cult followers too, because they made the mistake of believing the lie. And I have to say, like, that whole, just rewatching all the material with Cassandra and Rite of Passage, and then the whole situation in Metamorphosis, and being in a pandemic environment, where they're talking about this particular virus and where did it come from. And oh gosh, yesterday I went down a rabbit hole and I was watching Ancient Aliens, and they were talking about like viruses from outer space. And I was like, oh, kind of ringing a bell.
Yeah, we're pretty vulnerable when it gets right down to it. And I think really in recent times, that's crystal clear. So, and what a great costume for this new episode as well. Did you have any input?
No, I had no input. I just, honestly, I mean, it gets pretty low cut, and there are moments where I'm like just sort of doing this and arranging myself or whatever, and then I realize I'm still on camera, but in between takes, and the whole video village is kind of walking away.
Right. Well, what else are you gonna get it done? You gotta adjust sometimes.
Yeah, so you can use the camera lens as a mirror in between takes, but you have to remember that there's still people sitting and watching the feed, So, I mean, I just went with it, because they were just geniuses. Those costumiers are just like so incredibly gifted. And yes, it was a bit revealing, but hey, man, I was Nirrti. I didn't care. I was dirty, flirty, nerdy, as RDA used to call me.
I did. Dirty, flirty. That's just great. Thank you for watching this clip from Dial the Gate. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving us a thumbs up with that like button. It will encourage the algorithm to show this to other Stargate fans. Also, please consider sending this to a fellow Stargate friend. I also want to invite you to subscribe to future episodes right here on YouTube. We are a live show, so changes are likely to happen all the time. And if you plan on joining us live, you'll want to be the first to know. Be sure to visit dialthegate.com for the complete guest schedule, so you'll know when to join us and ask your very own questions to our guests. See you on the other side.